What's up, Sherpa Network? Thank you for tuning in today. My name is Jonathan Tenenbaum, aka JT, aka Jay On, aka Sherpa Winfrey, and I'm the host and producer of DomainSherpa, where all roads lead to domains. Today's show is part of our Down the Rabbit Hole series, because as we say here on DomainSherpa, all roads lead to domains, and in the reverse, our work with domains has us venturing all the time into different areas and topics, some domain related, some not so related, hence the jump down the rabbit hole. This particular show was started with our homegirl, Jen Sales, so big shout out to Jen, and we describe it as a tech-adjacent digital asset, pop culture, tangent-positive podcast with some domain stuff thrown in for good measure. We usually interview someone or dive into some current events or, again, a specific topic that we think is interesting and we think would be interesting to our guests. Today, we are going to be very domain-centric, so for the domain maxis out there in the audience, this one is definitely for you, where we've got some special guests that I'm going to introduce in a second. Actually, okay, I'll go ahead and tell you who it is. It's Todd and Jacqueline Daly from Dynadot, and I'm going to introduce them with some AKAs individually, but that's what we've got coming up on today's show, and we're pretty excited about it. So let me go ahead with that and introduce my guest slash co-host. Over to my right, I got my boy Andrew Rosener, aka Morpheus, aka the Dirk Diggler of digital assets, aka Bob Lee Swagger, aka Drew. Drew got what I need, aka every Rosener has its thorn, aka never going to give Drew up. Get Rick rolled. What's up, Drew? How are you?
I am. I'm good. I'm good. I'm doing a lot of just deep reflections this week. This week is really. I'm trying to establish what is my fundamental thesis for 2025 and how to go about attacking 2025. And I don't have a lot of clarity on that for you yet, but it will be forthcoming when I have it.
All right, well, good. It's good because we will tie that in a little bit when we talk about sort of, with respect to Dynadot and Todd and Jacqueline about, how would they see 2020, first of all, how 2024 was, how they see 2025 kind of shaping up early, and what are some of the current things, exciting things going on at Dynadot? What does some of the roadmap look like? Things they're excited about, both in the domain space broadly and then also internally at the company. So, so I think getting your perspective there will be good. Well, I mean, we always get your perspective on everything. So, I mean, I think that's, so always all good.
Trying to say something?
No, man, I'm not saying. I'm saying it's time to keep introducing our guests. To my lower right, we got the one and only Todd Hahn, a.k.a. the Todd Father, a.k.a. Todd Han Solo, a.k.a. Why is the carpet wet, Todd? I don't know, Margot. He's the founder and president of Dynadot, founded in 2002 with 5.5 million domains under management, over 100,000 customers in 108 countries. And in my opinion, one of the best, brightest, not just domain registrars, but companies in the domain space. One of my favorite executives and leaders in the domain space, somebody who I've been trying to get on the show for a minute. Finally, I cornered him in Vegas and said, dude, you got to make this happen. And he was gracious enough to take the time. So very, very happy to have him on the show today. So Todd, how you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be on the show. And I appreciate everything you guys do, talk about the industry. And so I'm happy. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let me continue to go around the horn. So below me, we've got the one and only Jacqueline Daly, a.k.a. Jacqueline, a.k.a. Jack of all trades, a.k.a. the Daily Planet. She is the vice president of marketing at Dynadot with 15 years plus experience in the domain space, successfully expanding Dynadot's market presence, enhanced customer engagement, optimized user experience. I mean, just all the good stuff that you see happening at Dynadot. One of the key people to make that happen, overseeing global marketing operations, brand development, customer acquisition, all that good stuff. Hence, Jack of all trades. It all kind of worked out. That was really a better AK than I even intended. So I'm going to give myself some credit there. So, hey, welcome to the show. And thank you as well for being here. How you doing?
Good. I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. I prefer the Jacqueline of all trade, but I guess we can keep it gender neutral.
Okay, I like it. That's all good. All right, well, cool. Let's jump right into it. Like I said, I mean, this is one of our down the rabbit holes where we've got different types of shows here on DomainSherpa. Down the rabbit holes where we bring on people that are interesting either in or outside the domain space to really let the audience get to know them, get to know what they do. And obviously for you guys, again, Dynadot being, a mainstay in the space, you guys kind of look at y'all as like, good guys doing good work, right? And continuing to have success, for now well over two decades. I mean, that's pretty impressive. I mean, so let's talk about the origin story and how it all started. So, what was it that got you into domains, and how did Dynadot come to be?
Well, it's this happened back in 2000, and my mom has a vacation house in Mexico, and she had heard about this thing called the internet, and so she's told me, "Hey, Todd, because I was a computer science background, she said, "Hey, build me a website and for my house." And so I started doing the research. I found a registrar. I registered a domain, and I just remember thinking, "Wow, this control panel is not that great. I could do better."
Yeah.
And I had a computer science background. Uh, applied to ICANN. Just almost on a whim. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't think that much about it. Um, I told my mom, like, "Hey, I'm going to be a registrar." She's like, "What's a registrar?"
Yeah.
No one knew what I was doing. And but yeah, I just kind of jumped in. Sometimes when you're young and you're naive and you kind of just do stuff, right? This was kind of one of those situations, and I got accredited, and I built this site myself because of my background. For the first 3 years, I did everything. I was customer service. I was the accounting. I was the website designer. And I think in year 3, we hired our first employee.
Okay.
Got an
It
office.
took me 2008, yeah, probably 5 years before I hired my first employee.
Okay, yeah. It takes a while just to kind of figure out how everything is, right?
Or at least that's the perceived nature from the outside. And how did you go from, let's say, so I guess that's 15 years, from 5 employees to 150? What are these people doing? I always look at this and I think, like, well, I guess, I don't know what are, I could probably figure out what 30 to 50 of them are doing, but what are the other 100 doing?
Yeah, that reminds me, was it someone said DocuSign has like 20,000 employees and no one could figure it out. I was reading this online. But yeah, it was a slow process for sure, because Dynadot does not have any VC or any investment. So you're right, it is pretty organic. Like, as we made money, we would invest back into the company, hire another person, open an office somewhere, or it was very organic. So that's part of the reason it took us 18 years to get to our first million. But then since then, the last 5 years, we've hit 6 million. So we kind of like built the foundation, and then it kind of
That's
took
6 million domains under management.
yes, exactly.
Okay, very cool.
And
You guys
then
got to update the site. The site says 5.5. You need to do the counter just to keep rolling. But I think it's also, but I think it's also, and I think that's a really good point to mention that, you guys are debt free, privately held. So then, so what is the focus, like the philosophy, right? And Jacqueline, I'll kind of pivot to you. So when you guys are putting yourself out there as what your brand is and what your identity is to the customers and the industry and domain space at large, like what is that? What's that narrative? What's that story?
Well, Todd mentioned we have over 80 engineers. So I think technology is kind of the backbone of Dynadot. And not just building things to build things. We have really open conversations with our customers and build things that they actually need. Because we're not domain investors. I think maybe Todd has a dozen names, but we don't really understand that market as well as the customer does. So, you can reach Todd on Twitter and have a conversation directly with him. Our account managers are constantly talking to our portfolio holders, and we're building features that people actually want. And so, we have a lot of customers actually actively involved in the creation of these tools, because at the end of the day, that's been the success. That's why we have such a powerful control panel, because it's built on what people requested. And so we actually take the time to listen to the customers and create the Dynadot that they want to use. And I think that's kind of been our secret sauce, is just to listen and implement well.
Yeah, I love that.
But yeah, the control panel is built for people with a lot of domains. We have bulk updates.
Yep.
You can list up to 5,000 domains at a time through your control panel,
Mm.
and it's still pretty fast. Everything's pretty optimized on the back end.
I think one of my favorite features personally is just the ability to manage name servers so effectively with preset name servers that you can just drop down and select from all the most common marketplaces and name servers that people are trying to point their domain to, right? And that just makes it so much easier. And you don't end up with mistakes in your name servers, and you don't end up with non-resolving pages, and there's a lot to be said for that. And it also allows for testing, right? It makes it easier to just say, okay, I'm going to take these 100 names, I'm going to go test them on this, and then I'm going to move it over here. And it makes a big difference. There's so many things that I just opt out of doing that I know would have been productive with my portfolio, simply because it's too much of a hassle. It's too much of a time suck to go and update names. And anyways, I take my hat off. I think you guys are doing a great job. It's just those, it's not something that people want to like write home about, but it's actually the stuff that makes your day easier. It makes everything a little bit more efficient in doing what it is we do. And you guys have been pretty conscious about making those updates and adding those features, and it's definitely appreciated.
Yeah. I mean, I can relate to you just like typically how a feature gets implemented. Usually it's someone on Twitter complaining like, hey, Todd, like this is not working, or hey, why don't you do this?
Yeah.
And that's kind of new for you, right? That you sort of
yeah.
re-engaged with Twitter in the last year to year and a half or so.
It's been a year and a half, and man, I should have joined sooner. It's such a pleasure.
It's the only place to be.
Exactly. Of course, like I get complaints and stuff. Actually, I welcome feedback, good and bad, but it's nice to just have those conversations. And I feel like even though we were already pretty reactive, like it takes us to a new level of kind of listening. But when I get a complaint, what I do literally is I just screenshot that complaint and I just send it to our designers. So it's like a direct conduit to our product team, Twitter basically.
Oh, that's great.
What's your, I mean, obviously each thing has a different timeline because of sophistication and complication and integration, but what's your general, you get some feedback about, say, a moderate feature improvement or addition. What's the turnaround time usually from, hey, somebody's complaining, to I'm sending this over to the design team, to, okay, now the engineering is implementing it?
Yeah, just last week, someone asked me for a new sortable. There's a column in one of our tables, and they wanted it sortable. Okay. And they got that done in a week. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the engineers are pretty effective. Our code base is clean too. I think that's another thing that is not exciting or flashy, but having a clean code base is actually extremely important for any tech company. And so we spend the time to like clean up legacy,
Trim the fat,
old code, whatever. So that's a lot of work that is easy to skip, I would say, but we actually do it, and it's not glorious, it's not glamorous. I mean, but it's a difference long term. Yeah.
No, and I think that absolutely. I mean, when technical debt is like an iceberg, right? It's like it's a lot, and I've seen it with some of the legacy companies that I've been at, where because
where it was the opposite, where I'd email JT when he was at NameGen. I'd be like, JT, you're making it awfully hard for me to buy more domains because of X, Y, and Z. And he'd be like, I know. And then, they'd like eventually maybe escalate it to an engineer. Then they'd be told like, yeah, we'll get to that in a decade. And then,
well, for what it's worth, we had 2.5 engineers, so there's a half of a person running around. And and then as far as your customer base, so this will be a Jacqueline question, I guess. So when you guys are sort of reaching out, you guys are not domain investors yourselves, but obviously a large segment of your customers are. So how much are you marketing both? I guess the question would be segmenting the customer types, and then also, are you seeing geographically any kind of a shift in your customer base as you guys have evolved as a company? I mean, I see 108, 100,000 customers in 108 countries. So maybe that's like two-part, like from a domain investor versus sort of retail customer? How much of that are you guys sort of seeing and addressing? And then how spread out are they?
Yeah, so we're kind of split in half. About half of our customer base is domain investors, and the other all on the retail side. And so it makes it very interesting because they're completely different customer bases that have different needs. Where, here we have this bulk robust control panel, but like a mom and pop shop, that might be a little bit intimidating. And so, we've introduced a different amount of suites of our different products, like our site builder, our email for those everyday users. But I would still say like the bulk majority of our customers are large portfolio holders. The onesies and twosies, they continue to grow, but not as quickly as the portfolio holders. And it's not necessarily domain investors, but we have like marketing agencies, for example, that, are actively involved in expired auctions for buying domains with backlinks, and they have huge portfolios. And so those that are looking for a domain management system for more than one or two domains, that's definitely our biggest area of growth. And that's also, we're seeing that growth internationally as well. So about half of our customer base is in the US, but the other half span globally, split between Asia and Europe mainly, China being the biggest section of Asia, of our customer base. And so
where do you see the most growth?
I think the fastest growing is in Asia and China. And, as Todd mentioned, we offer a bunch of different currencies now. Our site's translated in about 10 different languages. And so we're really trying to support that international growth. As the internet penetration grows in these developing countries, we're seeing more and more people come online, and it's either to create a website or else to monetize domains. We're seeing, expansion of that, especially in Asia. And so we're doing our best to kind of support all these little segments of the market that are at Dynadot.
In Asia, I definitely think it's declining in the US for sure. But like sometimes we look at some of our registrations from China, and a lot of them are still doing traffic stuff. For sure.
Oh, that's interesting.
Now, let's say somebody based in the United States with a domain portfolio, and I'm fully aware this is not you don't have a parking solution. This isn't your area of expertise, but I don't know if you have an opinion or any thoughts about, like, is it, let's say me, for example, if I wanted to park utilizing that network of advertisers and traffic arbitrage in China, can I get paid out from China? Probably not, right?
I'm sure there is a way, but I would say it's
probably not straightforward.
Not easy, yeah. And also, I think all the websites over there are in Chinese, so there's some obstacles, I would say. But I mean, a lot of the investors in the Chinese traffic, they're actually based outside of China, so I think it is possible. There's a lot based in the US actually, but they do traffic in China. So I think there is a way to get the money out.
Okay. There's always a way to get the money out.
As far as listing domains for sale, when you talk about monetizing sort of in a more traditional sense, through the control panel, right? So where can I list domains from my Dynadot account, right? Are you guys integrated with like cdo or Afternic, or is it on your own, like your own auction platform? How does that work?
Yeah, we have the full Afternic integration, fast transfer. Same with cdo. So from the control panel, actually, this is something we added last year. You can list domains. You don't have to go to afternic.com or cdo.com.
Yeah.
List it directly and manage it directly from the control panel. So that's another way to save time. And we also have our own internal marketplace. It's just for Dynadot. It's not syndicated anywhere, but it's used for a lot of like a smaller value transactions. If you just have a domain that's $50 and you don't want to go through some network, like you can just list it on the Dynadot marketplace, and it's a 10% commission, and it's
Is that an auction marketplace, or is that a sort of buy it now listing?
That's both. You can do buy it now, fixed price, and auctions, user auctions. You can do all three. So if you have some domains that are expiring soon, just list it for $10, see what happens.
And do you guys accept payment in crypto? Is that
we do through BitPay. We do.
BitPay? Yeah, got it.
We're currently adding BTC server, which will allow us to allow you to pay us directly to our wallet, and that's almost done, I would say.
I was just curious. More and more, I think we're going to see some significant stablecoin legislation coming in the pipeline. And I think I'm pretty optimistic about what that's going to do for just general e-commerce, and allowing for microtransactions, allowing for very rapid checkout, and just adding a lot more fluidity to the consumer internet, the consumption internet, the e-commerce, of all colors and shapes and sizes. I think stablecoins are going to be a big leveling up of e-commerce. And
I love
I think
because
it just makes so much sense. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, I mean
24/7, 365, no 3-4% to a credit card company. No, it really smooths it out, and it removes so much friction from e-commerce.
Oh my gosh. And the biggest one for a business, no chargebacks.
Programmable. Yeah.
Also,
yeah. Also
programmable too, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, chargebacks, huge problem.
Yeah.
So
say that I sell a domain on Dynadot. Can I get paid in either a stable coin or Bitcoin or
currently no.
shitcoin?
Your Dogecoin you want? You're collecting?
Yeah, can we buy that Bitcoin?
Not yet, but we're working on that. Yeah.
Very cool.
It's
that is another. I mean, obviously just the ability to integrate stable coins is huge and is very meaningful. But I think from a domain investor standpoint, and many other people that I know, I'd love to just get paid out. It's like, anyways. I'm also radical. Anywhere that I can cut out banks, I'm happy to do so.
Okay. So I'm just curious, you like to be paid out, but in which currency, like Bitcoin or stablecoins?
Well, look, I'm biased. I may not be your typical profile of a client. I would prefer to be paid out in Bitcoin. We basically, as a company, me personally, I think of Bitcoin as my savings account. And so we basically just sweep all, excess cash, sometimes on a monthly basis, but generally on a quarterly basis, we sweep all excess cash, just into Bitcoin. And then we hold it with Fidelity, and we let them, Fidelity Digital Assets, manage that treasury. And it's been an extremely successful strategy. And
not counting the last 24 hours though, but otherwise all good.
No, but it's yeah, sure. But we're not marking to market. It doesn't really matter. And
it's not a loss till you sell it, right, guys?
Exactly. 100%, man. Yeah, it's not a loss until you sell it. Of course. Yeah.
That's it.
100%. Yeah. So we're thinking about it. We might keep maybe 5 or 10 in Bitcoin.
Look, I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm not going to get into what we're holding, but it's been a very successful strategy for us. I'd encourage everybody. I think that if you dig in and you understand what is Bitcoin, you don't look at it like all this other stuff where it's speculative casino, where it's actually just a real store of value. We had that an offline conversation briefly before starting, and we were talking about how I feel that, and I think you sort of nodded your head in agreement, that we're moving from I call it, I'm an extreme. I'm radical and extreme and loudmouth, but I said we were moving from a fake economy into a real economy. And what I mean by that is that, you had a lot of businesses that were based on fluff and narrative, and everything was driven by, like sort of the pyramid scheme of venture capital. And it was not really what look, I look at you, we don't know each other that well, but I look at you like my brother from another mother, because there really aren't that many people. I mean, my business is dealing with the most successful entrepreneurs, venture capital firms, and Fortune 5,000 companies worldwide, right? That's my business. Those are the people that I deal with every day, all day, and I've been doing it for a very long time. And these are conversations that I'm having. These are, some cases email conversations, but phone conversations where I'm getting into the heads of these people and understanding what drives their business. How is this domain going to drive a return on investment for them? And as I do that, I've gotten pretty good at understanding which businesses are actually real and which businesses are not. And unfortunately, I would say that it really is like 80% or more of businesses that I encounter. And it's not to say that they don't have a business, and it's not to say that their business isn't meaningful, but it's not what I would call a real business. It's based on the circumstances that we find ourselves in that are the result of fiat mandate and fiat currency and fiat, derived institutions, and it's fake. It's all fake. It's just
It's based on
I don't
something like
I
speculation.
wish I had a better way for describing it.
I would agree with you. I mean, before the last couple of years, we had 0% interest rates for something like 8 years.
Yes.
That's not good for the economy.
No.
And there's a really good saying by Warren Buffett: when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked.
That's it.
I think,
there's going to be a whole bunch of naked people on the beach soon.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's precisely
Like,
That's precisely right.
Yeah.
So you're about to get Drew going on me, like what his entire thesis as to the value of Bitcoin. No, I mean, and there's a documentary done by the Swan Bitcoin folks called "This Machine Greens," which is on YouTube. And it's like 30-minute. Is it 30-minute video, Drew?
Something like that. Yeah, it's great documentary. But just to put a cap on what you just said, it's precisely right. Ultimately, as with most commodities, the price of gold is, tethered to the cost of replacement, right? And so how much does it cost, which is primarily an energy constraint, to get new gold out of the ground to add to the supply? And the fundamental difference between gold and I love gold. I love gold. I love gold and I love Bitcoin.
Gold. I love Bitcoin.
I'm not, against gold because I want to be, ultimately pro, Bitcoin. But the difference, which is quite fundamental, is that there is no supply constraint on gold. We know that there is a vast ocean of gold in the Earth's crust. It's just very expensive to pull it out. Just like we know that there is more oil than we will use in the next 10,000 years of human existence, even if we continuously ramp up our energy consumption and we double our population. It's just very expensive to go get it and to pull it out of the ground, send it through pipelines, right? Like all of this is very expensive. And the difference is that no matter what the price of Bitcoin is, you cannot increase the supply. And gold, right? Gold is now roughly $3,000 an ounce. I expect that the price will keep going up. I don't know exactly where those tipping points are in energy prices and in increasing gold supply. But I do know that, like, let's say the price of gold doubles. If gold is suddenly $5,000 or $6,000 per ounce, I can promise you, we already know. I don't know, you don't know, but there are people in the domain in the gold business that know exactly where they can go pull, a few thousand kilos of gold out of the ground once the price makes sense to pull it out of the ground. I remember when, oil was trading at $35 a barrel. And, Petrobras is the largest oil company in Brazil, one of the largest oil companies in the world. And they made this massive discovery offshore. It was the largest oil reserve that had been discovered to date. This is back in probably 05, 08, something like that. And I invested in Petrobras just naively and stupidly. Number one, I didn't understand the corruption involved. But number two, and more importantly, is I didn't understand the cost to pull that oil out of the ocean. That was like 5 miles or 11 miles or something under the ocean, deep in the earth. And, in order to actually make it make sense to go get that oil, the price of oil needed to get to like 80 or $100 a barrel, right? And so gold is constrained only up to the point that price doesn't allow for us to increase supply.
Yeah.
About some of the current things and exciting stuff for really some of the great things about your feature set. So where do you see the rest of this year? Do you have things on the roadmap that you're excited about? And generally speaking, what are we looking forward to, in this next 12, 24 months for you guys?
Well, I'll mention one thing we have is we recently launched a new bring your own lead feature. So let's say you've already made the deal, right? So you don't need the marketplace anymore. If you just want the transaction, like someone to process the credit card, process the Alipay, whatever currency, we support like 13 currencies. We have a bring your own lead feature. We launched it maybe 3 months ago. It's doing really well, very popular. We charge 5%, which covers the credit card fees and stuff for us, and once we add the BTC server, and we can accept direct crypto without going through BitPay, we'll probably even lower that commission even, so.
Very cool.
Very
That's
cool.
on
All right, Jacqueline, what about you? What's on your sort of...
Yeah, I think this year we're definitely going to be expanding our aftermarket features. So there'll be some exciting launches here in the next month or so that we'll be able to announce here soon. Our team's focusing on adding more ccTLDs as we expand our TLD offerings. So recently, I think we've added probably like 20 or 30.
Yeah, I've been seeing you
ccTLDs
guys
to
like,
our
it's like almost weekly. Todd's like, oh, hey, we just added,
That's
some obscure country I'd
Oh,
never
here's
heard
the
of. And here's another one. And
That's
it's
right.
like, oh, wow, okay.
Yeah,
It was
so
funny. I don't
we're
remember what it
gonna
was. You
continue.
announced one like a week or two ago,
Yeah.
and I was just like, oh, wow, that's actually kind of a cool domain extension, but I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, so we're rolling the train on that still. We try to direct connect to every central registry to kind of cut out the middleman and keep the prices low. And so there's some big ccTLDs that we're going to be launching this year, so that'll continue to grow.
I think that's a great strategy. Just, sort of, again, some of my, let's say, macroeconomic thesis. In a world that seems to be shattering, meaning splintering, like multipolar, you're going to have different centers of power. You're going to have, different centers of economics and those types of relationships. I actually think that ccTLDs are going to be pretty big growth area for domain names as countries start looking more, within, and then you've got multinational companies that are trying to stand up presences that are local presences with some of the nuance of local presence, as opposed to sort of just here's our one international presence, and maybe we've just got some local language functionality. But yeah, I'm pretty bullish, and we're seeing that with some of our clients that are asking us to go out and acquire ccTLDs for their brands. And where we've been working with these people for years, and that was never really a priority. ccTLDs are, I would say, increasingly becoming a point of, let's say, discussion, point of priority.
Awesome. Todd, anything with you before we go?
Yeah, I just want to tell a story of my daily life, which is basically half my time is on calls with various partners. And I oftentimes ask them, like, what's important to you guys? What's important to your management? And most of the time people say, top line, they want revenue, or they say EBITDA, they want earnings.
Yeah.
I just always think to myself, that's so different from my answer, which is to build good products, to keep our customers happy, and to build a good team. Like that's the most important thing to me. And so I think that kind of maybe maybe explains some of what you guys are seeing, in the product and stuff. Other thing I'll mention is that I think we grew really fast in the last 5 years. And so I don't think people realize like how big we are. We're actually the number 5 registrar in the world now by DUMS. I think
DUMS being domain under management for all you DUMS out there.
DUMS, yeah.
Too much lingo, sorry. And then
or DNOMs, don't know any names under management, but yeah.
Yeah, and we're growing. We'll probably hit 10 million in the next few years in registrations under management. We're voted a favorite registrar by Name Pros for the last 5 years. So I think we've built up some good momentum, and so I'm excited for the company, and I hope you guys, if you haven't yet, give us a try.
It's unfortunately you get people, oh, I didn't mean it, my credit card, this, that, or the other, and those are, it's like occasionally you get those kinds of things. But if you manage your stuff responsibly, then you won't miss those kinds of deadlines, right? And I think that to your point, if you guys were not going to have an expiry, it wouldn't give them an opportunity to get a name back once it reaches the certain point when you guys would have to delete it anyway. So that really it's like, yes, it's uncomfortable in a way to have that conversation with a customer when they're angry. But I do think that just common sense kind of puts you guys in the right place. I
100%.
Honestly, I'm preaching to the choir here, but yeah.
Well, I think it's actually part of the argument that people get lost on is that, it's in the customer's best interest that domain name is retained by the platform for as long as possible under whichever circumstance, whether it's in auction, whether it's in the grace period, whether it has sold and it's in somebody else's account. Maybe it becomes impossible to seek recovery if you inadvertently lost a name and there's a legitimate reason. But the longer the domain is retained by the original platform, the better the chances are of, some kind of arbitration or discussion or solution being found. Once the domain, if that domain goes to drop catch, like, sorry, you're shit out of luck, and there's nothing you can do.
That's a good point. And not only that, but I'll actually take it a step further. If it goes into the drop and it gets picked up by someone not even that's so call it a publicly accessible platform for the drop, then you have even less opportunity to try to get back. Where if it goes to an expired auction for a period of time. So how long do your expired auctions last? Like when a name goes
7 days, yeah.
So it's 7 days. So in those 7 days, they still have an opportunity to recover it there because they know where to find it and how to get it. And if it gets dropped and then it ends up with drop catch, okay, you have an opportunity to drop catch. But it's also, there are plenty of drop catchers that don't put the names into auction and then, plug them away into their own portfolios and things where, again, you're kind of very much to Drew's point. I think this is a good one. Is that, the longer that it stays available one way or the other, at least you still have an opportunity to try to get it.